There we go. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we will be looking at Caseload Manager's advanced features, specifically automated email and calendar follow-ups and deadlines, okay? So we'll go ahead and jump in right now. I'll do a little bit of explanation, then we will hop out to a live version so that you can see exactly how these look inside of Caseload Manager. All right. So, Caseload Manager, as we've discussed at this point, it is an online cloud system, meaning that you can create these automated follow-ups and deadlines within the cloud. They're kind of templates that can live there that the rest of your staff can then access. So we are hopping way over here now to the advanced features. So we're going all the way to the bottom. So this means that you are kind of in the ninja stage of your Caseload Manager training. So we'll be looking at these final two, automated follow-ups and deadlines. Now, let me just say a quick note about these. Automated follow-ups and deadlines are both really robust options. They are also kind of complex. So they're an optional add-on. Some people have added them on and they are fantastic for their system. Other people have said, geez Louise, this is incredibly confusing. Why would I want to add this onto my system? So for some people it's a help and some people it's a distraction. So let's talk about how these work today, and then you can decide if they're a benefit for your system or not. I will also say that they do very different things, the follow-ups and the deadlines. They do different things, but they're similar enough to be kind of confusing. So I'll give you a few examples today of how they both work, and hopefully that will help to clarify it for you. Okay, so number one, automated follow-ups. So the first thing that you do is create a template in the email hub, okay? And then we'll create a follow-up that uses that template in settings, and then you trigger it in a calendar item. So let's go see exactly what does that mean. So number one, we have this expert user tip that says, why don't you try creating a case opening follow-up? So I will do that, and I recommend that you do the same thing, okay? So first, we're going to hop out to Caseload Manager, and then I'm going to create a couple of templates in the Mail Hub. So I'll hop over here to Mail, and I'll create a couple of new templates. So number one, we'll say edit, and let's have this first one just say, welcome to mediation, with a little bit of information that says, here is what mediation is. Okay. So that will be our first email template. I'll create one more that will just say, please review the confidentiality agreement below, print and sign. And then I will just copy in and paste our office's confidentiality agreement, okay? So what I just did was I first created the templates that I want my follow-ups to send out, okay? Now, I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you, but I promise this will all come together and make sense. So for right now, I just need you to kind of be a sponge and absorb all these little details and then watch how they all come together. So I created a template, number one. All right, so create a template, ta-da. Next, I'm going to hop over to settings and create a follow-up. So I go to settings, and create a follow-up. I have some in here that I've already created, but now I want to create a new one. So I do that by clicking add. Case opening, okay, that will be the title. And now it says, okay, Claire, there are two ways that you can follow up. you can create a follow-up calendar item or a follow-up email. So right now, I want to create a follow-up email. And so again, just try to walk through this scenario with me and pretend that you need to create automated emails that go out to your clients as soon as you open a new case. So the first, okay, so I'm going to hit number 1. The first thing that's going to happen is I want to send out, where did it go? There it is. I want to send out a welcome to mediation email. And this says, hey, how soon do you want that to go out? And I want that to go out immediately, so 0 days. But let's say it's something like an invoice. Well, you don't really want to send that the day that the case is closed. You might want to wait a couple of days. Or if it's an evaluation, you might want to wait 10 days. If it's a reminder, you might want to wait 30 days. Okay, so this is just saying, how soon do you want this email to go out? So I'm saying 0 days. In other words, send it right away. Next, who's that going to? And I'm going to send it to all of the parties in this case. Since this is including donors and children, you know, maybe let's filter that and just send it to the participants, okay? Because we're assuming that the referrals and the children probably don't need it. So you can look at this list and really decide who's appropriate, who's the right person to receive this email. All right? So I decided when it's being sent out, what is being sent out, to whom is it being sent out, and finally I'll hit save. Okay, so what I've just done is I've created one follow-up that has one email, but I want some more things to happen when I open a case. So I'm going to create another follow-up email, and I'll have this one go out the next day. Okay, and where did it just go? Here we go. Required to bring to mediation. Okay, so now I'm going to send an email that will go out the next day, and I will have this one go to everyone. Okay, so that will include my participants and my attorneys, just reminding them what documents they need to bring. And I will hit save. So now 2 things are happening. As soon as I open a case, then I will trigger these emails to go out. I'll show you in just a moment how that will be triggered. So first, it will send out this welcome to mediation email. Second, it will send out this required to bring to mediation email. And then if I want, I can also add a calendar item to this by clicking add follow-up calendar item. Okay, so this is the third thing that will happen. And let's say I want this to happen 5 days later. And I will have this be a phone call. And we'll just say verify that all participants have received all necessary documents. And I'm going to schedule it with, let's schedule it for let's say the case developer. Okay, it could go to all staff, it could go to the first mediator, but in this instance, I just want it to go to the case developer because that's the way my office works, okay? So I am going to put a calendar item on my case developer's calendar saying, hey, verify that all parties have received the necessary documents, okay? So hopefully so far this is making sense. All that I'm doing right now is doing the background foundation work so that every time I open a case, it can send out a welcome email, what's required to bring email, and then verify that by placing a calendar item on the case developer's calendar, okay? So we've done a lot of steps so far to set this up. I'm going to hit update and let me just review what we've done so far, and then I'll show you the magic, how to make it happen. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my list here. Number 1, create a template. Number 2, create a follow-up in settings. Okay, So we did that by coming into Mail, adding a new template, right? And then I chose which templates I wanted to send by creating this automated follow-up, right? So here we go, case opening. I chose those templates. Okay, are you guys tracking so far? So now, let's say that I've just opened this case, okay? So I have this brand new lovely case, and I'm adding a calendar item. Again, a lot of steps here, just absorb it for the moment and I'll come back and review. I'll include everybody. I'm the one that is scheduling it. Okay, and so now, sorry, the type is intake. Okay, so I'm just opening my case. So I'm just writing myself a note. I'm using this calendar item to write myself a note saying, hey, case opened, or opened, intake completed, case opening, emails sent. All right. So now I have all of these follow-ups that I've created. If it's a foreclosure case, then here are the emails and follow-ups for that. Client evaluations, after, invoice, closing, etc. But right now, I just want to use this generic one at the bottom that we just created, case opening. And it tells me what that is. It will send out those 2 emails, and then it will create a calendar item that verifies the participants have received the documents, okay? So that's what we just created in settings. This is the automated follow-up. So now as soon as I hit save, that triggers these 3 things to happen. Remember, it will trigger, this email template will go out today, because that happens in 0 days. It will require this, it will trigger this template to go out tomorrow, right? Because that happens in 1 day. And then finally, it will schedule a calendar item in 5 days to verify that they've received the documents. All right, so as soon as I hit save, it will start the countdown for these 3 things to happen in the future. Okay, so is everybody tracking so far? The calendar item is the first thing that happens, and then it triggers all of these other things to roll out afterwards. All right, so again, I'm kind of going to get in the weeds with this one and just explain some minutia, but it's a little tricky, so I just want to make sure you're tracking with me how this works. I'm going to go back into this calendar item that we just did, this intake, and just talk about the difference here. So I added these follow-up calendar items, right? These things will happen in the future. This is different than this green box. This green box is a reminder of a calendar item that hasn't happened yet, okay? So let's say that next week I have a mediation session, and I want to send a reminder about it beforehand. So then I would use this green box to say, hey, everybody, don't forget we have a mediation session scheduled next week. All right, so that's the difference here. Reminders go out before, this is beforehand, and these follow-ups go out after. All right, are you guys tracking so far? Again, we're really getting into minutia here, but for people, if your office is scheduled to work a specific way, where you need to contact people about deadlines and follow-ups and send out evaluations and send out surveys and all this stuff, then I think it's really helpful to understand all of these different features so you can try them out and then make an educated decision about what works best for your office. And honestly, it'll probably be a combination of these 3. So far, we've looked at email follow-ups. We've looked at 2 so far. We looked at these green ones that go out before a calendar item. Okay, we've looked at the automated follow-ups that go out after a calendar item. Okay, so those are the first two follow-up items that we've looked at. But then there's one more, that's deadlines. That's the third and final one that we'll talk about. And that obviously checks to see whether or not people have reached a deadline. So, okay, so I'm just going to turn my video back on because I talk with my hands. Okay, so we've got three things here. Number one, here's your calendar item. If you want something to go out beforehand, then you use that green email reminder feature. If you want something to go out afterward, then you use that automated follow-up feature, and that can schedule a follow-up email or a follow-up calendar item. If you want to know where people are at, if they did something before the calendar item, before they were supposed to, or if that deadline has passed, that's when you use deadlines. All right? So is that kind of making sense? Here's your calendar item, and you decide how you want to interact with it. Beforehand, email reminders. Afterwards, automated follow-ups. If you want to know where you're at, if somebody's before or if they've missed the deadline, that's where you set up deadlines, okay? So hopefully that's starting to gel for you. So I'll keep answering some more questions. Now we're going to go look at deadlines. All right, enough of me, goodbye. All right, so this is our review for follow-ups. We created a template in Email Hub. We created a follow-up in settings. We triggered that follow-up in a calendar item, and then we based that on a set amount of time after the calendar item, right? So we said, hey, please send this email in 5 days, or schedule a calendar opening, or schedule a calendar item 5 days from now. All right. I have a little expert user tip down here, and this is something that a lot of people will do. They will create automated follow-ups and just label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So then it's really easy to look into your case file and see, oh, did emails 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 go out? Because then I know that my clients have received all the necessary documents. If you want any help setting those up, I would be happy to. Mainly, you would just label your templates. Item 1, what to expect in mediation. Item 2, confidentiality agreement. All right. And then I will be able to see within my case file. So if I click on it and then I go down to activities, I'll be able to see down here what emails have been sent out. So right now in this case, nothing has been sent out. As they start to be sent out, I'll be able to see, okay, follow-up 1 has been sent out. Now follow-up 2, now follow-up 3. So then I'll know where clients are at and know what documents they've received. Again, for some people that's a helpful tip. For some people it is confusing and distracting. So if you want, completely ignore what I just said. All right, so we looked at automated follow-ups. So now let's talk about the difference between these. We have automated follow-ups and then we have deadlines. And if I hop out to Caseload Manager, I'll just show you. They're both down here at the bottom of the settings menu. Automated follow-ups, again, that happens after a calendar item. Deadlines lets us know where we're at in relation to that calendar item, okay? So deadlines are based on a set amount of time between 2 items, right? Did X happen within the right amount of time of Y? Did the clients return the evaluation within 10 days after the case was closed? Did the clients return a phone call within 3 days after they had been mandated to mediation? So in deadlines, you identify the first item and the second item, and then how much time they get in between those two. So what we're looking at right here, the first one says education session. Clients have to schedule that within 35 days of the homeowner date of summons. So if they receive the homeowner date of summons on date 1, then if they get to day 36 and Caseload Manager notices, hello, you have not scheduled your education session, then they will have passed the deadline. Got it? That means they are in the bad zone. And it means that the colors for those participants will now change to blue. That's why we've got those fancy colors there, because you can decide. Okay, let's walk through another example. Number 2. So let's say we have an education session. And what we're looking at right now, everybody, these are custom case fields that have been set up. So homeowner date of settlement, education session, date referred to mediation. Those are all custom calendar items and custom case fields that have a date in them. And so I haven't covered that yet. So don't worry if you're lost, because I haven't talked about it yet. So these will all be triggered by dates that you can set up. And you're saying, has date 1 happened within the right amount of time before date 2? So let's say the first action, I'm on the green line now, I'm on the second one, has the date entered pre-mediation, has that happened within 7 days after their education session? So let's say people go through an education session where they have mediation explained to them. Then after that, they have 7 days to schedule and have a pre-mediation. All right, so if 7 days passes and they have not scheduled their pre-mediation, it means they are in trouble. And you get this lovely green color attached to all the participants. So now you know, hey, these people are late. And it might be that they are now remanded back to court, or that they've lost their right to mediate. Whatever it is, you set up your deadlines to track the information you need to. Okay, so again, just explaining some of the differences here. Automated follow-ups, remember, those could only be triggered by scheduling a calendar item, right? So we were within our case. Sorry, I'm hopping back out to the live version. So we're within a case, and I added a new calendar item. And from there, I could select my automated follow-up, right? Okay, so that's the only way that you can schedule a follow-up. It's triggered by a calendar item. Deadlines are different. So with a deadline, you can have it be triggered by a case item, an activity, a calendar, or a participant field. So you have a lot more flexibility with deadlines. That also means they're more confusing, but it's giving you more flexibility and more power. So for some people, automated follow-ups are completely sufficient. That checks the box for them. If you need a little bit more firepower and more flexibility, then I would recommend using deadlines. All right. So let's go look at these. We're going to go create a deadline, and then I will walk you through a few examples to talk about when you might need to use a deadline versus a follow-up. Again, I know that this is really getting into the confusing stuff, so I hope that you've all had your coffee. They're powerful, they're just confusing initially to try to grasp. At least they were for me. I don't know. Maybe you guys are rock stars and you're already getting this. Here's how we create a deadline. Again, we'll go look at this live in just a second, but mainly first we create the trigger, then we create the template, then we create the deadline. So what starts it, what happens, and how long does it have to happen? That's essentially what we're asking. Okay, let's go look at this. And then we'll talk about reporting on all these in just a second. So just like with automated follow-ups, you want to make sure that you've created your right templates over here in the Mail Hub. Okay, so let's say you've already created your template. In other words, what do you want Caseload Manager to do if somebody reaches their deadline? So we want it to send an email. What does that email look like, right? So that's why we create the template, because we need Caseload Manager to have something to say. Then we come into settings, we hop down to deadlines. So here are some deadlines that I've already created. This one says, hey, if I have a mediation, make sure that we have a face-to-face meeting within 30 days of that mediation. Okay, so that's what this one looks like. Got it? Let's go so this is what one looks like, but let's actually create one now. Settings, deadlines, add. So what's fun about deadlines, like I just said, is you can have deadlines be triggered by a variety of things and not just a calendar item. So it can be triggered by any of these calendar types, such as an intake, or you can create a custom date field, like where the form's received, or you can create a case custom field, such as pre-mediation, okay? So all I'm trying to say is that you have a lot of flexibility about what triggers, you have a lot of flexibility about what you need, what you need the triggering and the main items to be. See what I mean? It's confusing just to try to explain this. Okay. So let's say let me make this a little clearer. I need my mediation to happen within 30 days of the intake, okay? Is this making sense so far? So in my office, let's say that I run a community mediation center, and then I have a grant that says the state will pay for mediation so long as participants schedule that mediation within 30 days. And the thing that triggers that for us, the thing that starts the clock on those 30 days, is once we have the case from the court and we begin to schedule the intake, okay? So for me, the earlier action is the intake, and then I'm giving clients 30 days to schedule their mediation. Got it? Priority, we'll say that's a 1. So there might be some other deadlines I have going on in the background, but this is the main one that I want to have happen. If somebody misses that deadline, I'm going to turn those participants bright red, meaning if these guys call and I see their name appear and their name's bright red, I know I can't work with them anymore because they have missed the clock. They've missed the window of time that the court has given them. All right, so I'm now adding that record. All right, add, there we go. Okay, so there is the deadline that I just created. What needs to happen? A mediation, and it needs to happen within 30 days of the intake. All right, hopefully so far this is making sense, okay? So again, there are 3 ways that we can interact with clients. I'm going to click add a new calendar item just so we can see that window. The first way is to send a note out before the calendar item, just reminding them, hey, everybody, you have a meeting coming up. I can also send a note out afterward saying, hey, how did that mediation session go? Here's your evaluation, okay? So I can send out a reminder, I can send out a follow-up, and I can schedule a deadline identifying whether or not somebody is within their window of time for that calendar item. All right. Again, I know this stuff is confusing, but hopefully it's starting to gel a little bit. So again, to set those up, I hop down to settings, automated follow-ups, and then deadlines. Okay. Now we can get really fancy. I can come over here to reports, and I can run a report on the deadline. So first I select what the deadline is. Here's that one I just created. Was mediation scheduled within 30 days of the intake? I can show the exact detail of every case and every deadline, or I can just get a summary. And now I can get even more detailed. You guys thought we were detailed before, but wait, there's more. So I can show cases near, cases that have passed, or if I need very specific, for instance, maybe I want to look at everybody that's within 2 days of passing their deadline, because I want to give them a call and say, hey people, you've got 2 days, schedule your case or you lose your right to mediation, okay? So then if I hit go, then it will show me a summary and I just created this, so obviously I don't have anybody within that deadline. Let's come up with another example. So then I can call people that are close and say, you guys need to schedule your mediation. All right, so let's look at another one. All right, let's look at this, but I'll say everybody that has passed. Okay, so now this is saying that there are 19 cases where people missed their deadlines, where I scheduled an intake and people did not schedule their mediation within 30 days. Got it? So then obviously I could print this out or just do a quick copy and paste if I need to put this in an email to send to someone. All right. So we just looked at a lot of stuff. Oh, let me also show you this item number 2. You know what? I started with item number 3. Now we're going to look at item number 2, how to filter, and then we'll look at item number 1. How's that for mixing things up? Okay, so this is item number 2. We'll look at filtering for cases in the Cases Hub filter. All right, so what exactly does that mean? So I'm down in Cases Hub. I click on filter, and let's say that I need to see all of my cases. See, I'm down here in the deadline section. I need to see all of my cases that have passed a deadline, and I'll click on that same one where they haven't scheduled mediation within 30 days of intake. So I hit set filter, and now it's going to show me all of those cases that fall within that parameter, that deadline, okay? So here we go. There are those 19 cases, right? Okay. So I'm going to click on one of these cases. Going to click Add Calendar Item. Oh, and then look at that. I'm trying to do too many things at once. And it is not letting me because these poor participants, it's not letting me schedule a calendar item with them because these poor participants are not, they're not within their right deadline. Okay. So, so what I wanted to show you, and there's a couple different ways I can go about this. So we might want to look at it this way. All right, I'm trying to get out of the demo mode now and show you the live version. Is it going to let me? Here we go. Okay, so so I have my participants, and again, if they have passed a deadline, then instead of their names being black, like this one, it's going to show blue or pink or green, depending on what deadline they have missed. So that's just an easy way for us to look at participants and know where are they at in the deadline range. So again, I really think that this one is the most confusing. So I would recommend just giving your brains a couple days to try to let this gel, and think about what are some possible deadlines that you might have for your office. So they might be things like, we need to be paid within 30 days of a case closing. Or you might want to come up with some custom case fields and then create your deadlines off of that. You might want to schedule automated follow-ups that say things like, hey, 10 days after the mediation, please send an email to parties with an invoice, letting them know how much they owe, all right? So I would recommend coming through and creating a couple automated follow-ups and a couple deadlines, and you might just want to have those go out to staff or involve dummy participants so that you don't actually invoice the wrong client, because that would be bad. So the 3 things that you should practice are automated follow-ups, deadlines, And then those email reminders that we saw at the bottom of the calendar. And let me pull that up. Okay, so at the bottom of a calendar item, that's where we can see the email reminders. So, all right, so we've looked at auto follow-ups. Remember, you create those in settings. We've looked at deadlines. And finally, we've looked at, what the difference is, and then we've looked at how to create deadlines. So something has to happen within X amount of days of something else. That's the trigger action. And then we looked at how to get information off of those deadlines. So the participants' color changes. We can filter for cases that are within the, that have passed the deadline or that are close to passing a deadline. And finally, we can view a report on deadlines in the Reports Hub, right? So we went to Reports. Where did you go? There we go. So we went to Reports, and then we hop down here, and we can get a summary of where cases are at within that deadline time frame. So I think that these are all really good features to know about. Again, they're powerful, but they are complex. So practice with them now. Try to understand them, and just know that they're available. It might not be something that you set up now. It might be something that you, let's say you get another grant 2 months from now, and you need to set up the correct deadlines to make sure that you're tracking the right information for that grant. So just keep this in the back of your head so that in case you do need to use this feature, you know how. So go ahead and practice. Know that you can add these on at any time. You might not need to use it now, but maybe you need to in the future. And then if you have any questions, there's always a help center. So just underneath your name in the upper right there, it says help. So we'll click on help topics. Like I said, we are in the Mondo Advanced Administrators features right now. So under Administrators, here's where you can hop over to Deadlines, all right? And that's where you'll get more information about this topic. Okay, so I've created a couple scenarios here, talked about how to initialize them, how to set up a deadline, how to edit, okay? And then how you can get some reports. So again, very complex, but thank you everybody for bearing with us. And if you have any questions, as we've said, you can always call our office, you can contact a super user, or you can send an email. And so there I am. So thank you everyone. And again, I hope you're enjoying using Caseload Manager. If you have any specific questions, please let us know. Visit the Help Center and just try to play with the program and practice using these different features so you can really start to understand the difference. So thank you.